Hey, what's up everybody, BDO 44 coming at you in another video. Alright, so we're getting used to the time change. It feels like it's 4 in the morning, but it's almost 7 a.m. and it's still dark, so we're just getting used to that. But this is a early Laker morning video. This is not exactly my Pelicans video, because we do play the Pelicans later on today around, I think, 5, I think it said, or 6 in New Orleans. And I had some thoughts about some things that I wanted to share with you guys. Nothing too serious at all, actually, but just a few thoughts. And then I'll make a video after doing homework on the Pellies. So that's how we'll do it. No homework done yet, but one thing I'm looking at is something that is not related to the game in any way, shape, or form. Just something that's a pet peeve of mine. I've heard other people complain about it. It's absolutely not a big deal. Why the hell do we always, in this era, not just our team, but every team in the league, wear road jerseys at home and home jerseys on the road? I grew up in a league where everybody wore white at home except for the Lakers. We were the only team in the entire league that didn't wear white at home. We wore yellow. We didn't have no white jerseys. And the road jerseys would be the darker jerseys for every single team in the league. All of them. Except for maybe one team later on in the, as the years progressed, that decided they wanted to wear a natural, different color on the road than white. I mean, than something dark. I think they switched it up. I don't know. It's the Wizards or probably something like that. But the point is, I kind of miss that. Because I'll tell you why I miss it. Because tonight, the Lakers play the Pelicans, and we're wearing our home yellows in their building. Now, that is not abnormal for this era. In fact, we've been doing that probably for the last 6 years. But what I'm telling you is, I'm sick of it. I want to see my yellow jerseys at home. I want to see purple jerseys on the road. I am sick and damn tired of seeing Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena with us wearing everything, but the yellow that we've won all our championships with in that building. And then every time we're wearing yellow, it's in somebody else's building. That is not the NBA I like, man. I'm all for change. I really am. But this is something I've been wanting to talk about for about 6 years, and I just never thought to bring it up. Can we please get back to wearing white at home and dark on the road? And give us a couple alternate jerseys. I like the alternate jerseys. I like alternate floors. I like switching it up at home and on the road sometimes. Sometimes I do want to see purple at home. Sometimes I do want to see our whites on Sundays for sure. But for God's sakes, stop making our road jerseys our home jerseys. It is irritating to me. I just want to make that very clear. I really, really like our home jerseys when we're wearing them at home. Yellow is for our home and purple is for the road. That is it. That is it. Whoever's idea was to permanently swap that and make it the opposite, that person, their idea, it was trash. I hate it. Like, I literally hate it. So I just want to put that out there. It was something that one of my Laker buddies mentioned a couple days ago online, and it sparked the understanding that this is something that I've always had a pet peeve for and never, not one time, mentioned in this camera. But it is very something that just really bothers me every time I see it. And we're going to see it yet again tonight. The Pelicans road jerseys are red jerseys. They should be wearing those in our building. They should be wearing white tonight. So that needs to be understood from me. I want things to go back in that way. Get us back to wearing all whites except for the Lakers, because that made us special. And that made everything very easy to understand. When I look at a floor, I remember watching the Wizards game. I think the Wizards were playing against, I don't know who they were playing against. One of the teams we just got through seeing a few days ago. And the thing about it was, they had played the same game back to back in the same building with a different team. But because the color scheme was so different, it looked like they had played in different buildings, which is fine. But when I was doing highlights, I didn't realize that because it was Toronto Raptors, because the floor looked so coordinated with Toronto's color scheme in the second game that they played together, that I sat there and watched the highlights for a whole half without actually realizing that they were in Washington. I just assumed, without really looking too closely, that they were in Toronto. Like, these are the type of things, it's like, yo, it's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the game at all. But for us fans who've been watching the game for 30 years, it's like someone made it opposite day and never stopped. You know what I mean? Like, it's not funny anymore. Let's go back now. This is ridiculous. So that's something I hate. I really, really hate it. Let's get back to what it should be. So that's one thing I wanted to say. That's exactly what I wanted to say. That is why I turned on the camera. How do you tell people that's what you want to talk about? That is exactly what I want to talk about. Like, god dang it, can we stop this? Anyway, so yeah. Is there anything else I legitimately want to get to? Yeah, man. This LeBron James PED thing is not picking up steam, but it is picking up steam in the YouTube streets. It's gonna start picking up steam in the real streets. In the main. What I guess is being said is that some dude who's a athlete of some sort is coming out saying that he and LeBron James got the same PED guy. You know, from what I understand, I don't know what walk of athletics he's from. I don't know who the guy is. I don't know who he is, but that's the word on the streets, and it's not going away in the YouTube streets. Now, ESPN, Fox, and them, they're not talking about it, but it's becoming a problem. It's becoming a problem because what the streets is asking Bron to do. And I think Bron should do that. I think he should do that. They're asking him to sue the person who's saying this. And I think he should do that unless he's guilty. And if he's guilty, we got problems. We got big problems if he's guilty. The good thing is, this is where the politics come in. Maybe they want to sweep this under the rug because it doesn't benefit anybody. Right? It doesn't benefit anybody to expose the king for PEDs, because what that ends up doing is opening up the doors for us to understand that he's obviously not the only person who's doing it. You know what I mean? That's what that's going to be. If the king was doing it, then that means probably about 70% of the league probably did it too. So that blows up the whole league, and we don't want that. But at the same time, when you look over at Barry Bonds and you see what he was put through, you know what I mean? It's a different league. They got different rules, different era, different circumstances. But at the same time, when you start looking at the media, they'll be like, well, they did Barry that way. They did A-Rod that way. You know, and it's going to be a thing. For me, when I look at PEDs in basketball specifically, without knowing baseball, I know they play a lot of games too, obviously more games. So I don't know if baseball to really know nothing to say. But what I can say about basketball is I weigh the possible PED use against just the overall unhealthiness of the schedule demanded upon these players. Like that right there. The schedule itself is not something that the body itself should be actually doing. 82 games plus playoffs, banging up against 7-footers and 6'8" guys at a 210, 250 for 48 minutes of basketball play every night, every 2 nights or whatever it is. I think that's probably more basketball than an athlete should be asked to play. And when you consider the amount of minutes that LeBron James is putting in on his career, you couple that with the type of punishment that he's taken on being the number one guy in all the situations, I would imagine that we're asking him to do things that are extraordinary against people who are continuing to evolve every day. You dominated Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade. Well, now we want you to dominate Giannis and Jokic and Doncic. It's like you're trying to get him to not only dominate the first era he was in, the second era he was in, and now you want him to dominate the last era he's in and get a championship in that era. It's just like, look, you're asking him to do abnormal stuff. So if he decides to take something to help him do that, you weigh that against what it is you're asking him to do that he probably shouldn't be asked to do in the first place. So that's what I say. If he wants to take a shot to keep his leg from falling off, he probably should be the guy allowed to do it because he's been the guy asked to do more than anybody else. That's really how I feel about performance-enhancing drugs. You got to weigh that against what it is they're doing. You got to weigh that against the injuries. You got to weigh that against everybody else who's on PEDs. Let's just keep it a buck. If everybody's on PEDs and I don't take one, am I really performance-enhancing? Or is it the opposite? So this is what it really comes down to. You want to ask dudes to do impossible stuff. You got drugs out there that can help them do it. Simple as that. You want me to look at that and say they shouldn't take it? Why? Why? It becomes a situation where you say it's not fair. It's not fair because everybody's not taking it. Unless they are. As to which it's not fair if you don't. See, we want to have the scores go up to 175, 174. And you want guys to do that at 82 games. You got overtimes that literally don't have to end at all. They don't have no cap on overtime. Dudes can go up to 30 overtimes if they really want to play it that much. So it's like if you're going to have these dudes play endless basketball for 82 long games a season, then you want them to go into playoff mode, stay healthy, scheme against the same team. You know what I mean? Every night, beat them, go on to the next team, do the same thing, beat them, go on to the next team, do the same thing, beat them, go across the country, back and forth in this round, win the championship, have a couple months off and then start it all over again 15, 16, 17 times. Like, this is not something that you should be doing without being in peak shape. And if there's something that they can give you that's going to help you do that, then the only thing keeping you from doing that is the culture for which is bad to do. It's there. It's there. You see what I'm saying? The PEDs have been created. People were in labs for hours putting this stuff together so that they can do what it is that they do, which is make these athletes better at what it is they're already good at. Now, if we don't want anybody to take PEDs, then we can't pretend like it's okay that some people take PEDs, because that's exactly what we would be doing here. We can't do it. We can't act like it's okay. Now, if y'all want to adapt to my thinking, then y'all make it okay. And we stop all this scandal and ripping accolades away from people and all that. Stop it. You know what I'm saying? Open your mind to understanding that you're asking people to do things that bodies shouldn't do, and that every 10 years or so, these kids get stronger and faster. They're getting stronger and faster, stronger and faster, stronger and faster. How do you keep up if you're from the old era when these dudes are twice as strong as the dudes you was dealing with? LeBron James was the biggest, strongest, fastest dude in his era. Now he got about 4 people his size in the league right now who are young. He's the old version of himself. He got to go up against Paolo. He got to go up against Giannis. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, and you don't want him to take nothing, but you want him to stay at this level though. I'm sorry, I'm not going to look at that and say he's the worst guy in the world, because a bunch of people have come together and haven't opened their minds to understanding what the hell it is they're asking him to do isn't really realistic in the first damn place. Can we do that first? You probably shouldn't be playing more than 50 games. Nobody should. 50 games plus playoffs should be your season, because that's probably as much as basketball as you really want these athletes to play. You want to have them load manage, and then you let the media turn that into a culture that's something that we don't accept. It's like, why would you make that something that's so bad? That's the thing. It's like you want to mold the culture to create controversy, mold the culture to apply pressure and make these guys look worse for the betterment of yourself, but you're molding the culture to make it so that it's even more difficult to perform. Now y'all want to make PEDs the worst thing in the world. You want to make load management the worst thing in the world, but you want to make injuries the most talked about thing. It's like the worst thing ever. Well, this is how you fix the injuries. You give them the drugs that keep them from getting hurt, and you cut away from the games that ultimately are piling on too much work for their legs. That's how you do it. You stop letting these middlemen who don't dribble a ball, including myself, who ain't launched the basketball in 10 years, tell you what athletes need to do to stay healthy and not overuse themselves. They don't know. We don't know. We do want to see them go out there and play like they're animals and play like they're robots, and they're not. They break down, and we get upset when they do. You know who needs performance-enhancing drugs? Anthony Davis. Because you want him to play the best defense, you want to play the best offense, but you also understand that he's most fragile. So what you're asking him to do is basically tear his body down. And you're telling me you got a drug that he can take that can keep him from having his body tore down, but you don't want him to take it because it ain't fair for everybody else. But everybody else ain't being asked to do what he does, and everybody else ain't dealing with the body he has. And everybody else ain't stand to cheat the world out of fantastic talent by not being able to stay healthy to be out there. Right? So you want him to go out there without the PEDs that are available to him, get hurt, so we can criticize him for doing that. I mean, it's like the culture itself, what it is we agree upon. It don't actually make sense. It don't actually make sense. A lot of times when we try to figure out, is it balanced? Is it fair? You're not looking at the scales. You're not looking at where parties are standing. One dude's down there at the bottom, another dude's a couple steps higher, another guy's a couple steps higher. But you want to say everything's fair as if they're all standing on the same plane. I'm telling you, they're not. They're starting from different places. So when you start assessing what's fair for them, you better look at where they're starting. And with that being said, I don't have a problem with PEDs if there's a science to understanding these scales. These scales. You get to a certain point where guys gets to a certain age, he now needs PEDs, but only to a certain point. So he can get to a certain level that gets him to a certain performance level. If he goes any higher than that, he's cheating. If he goes any lower than that, he doesn't have enough. But these are the things that we need to start opening our mind to instead of all PEDs are bad. Oh, that's stupid crap. That's the crap we were thinking 20 years ago. It's 20 years later. Let's evolve. It's about measurements. How much did you give him? How much did it do? Did it do too much? Then we gave him too much. You measure that. If he has too much in his system, he don't play that night. He has to take a couple days off because he needs to bring down his PED scale to match everybody else. And then as you get more advanced with it, you start to custom that for what it is you expect him to do based on the scale he started at, where he's headed, and all the science you have and the data that you've collected from everybody else. This is where we're headed. You don't just sit up and say, oh, PEDs are bad, and you just walk away stupid as hell. No, you measure, you manage, and you grow. So that's where I'm at with it. Can we measure, manage, and grow? Because I'm sick of all this nonsense about, oh, everything's blanketed, it's black and white, and now we got to punish. It's like, that's not smart. That's old. That's archaic. Let's evolve. Because I'm telling you, the athletes are. And 10 years from now, they're going to be stronger, faster, and the PEDs are going to be more effective. And if we're still thinking like this, we're going to be leaving a lot of production on the table while we're sitting up here acting like all weed is bad. That was 20 years ago. We know better now. Let's grow up. That's essentially where I'm at. That's bad. That blanketed way of looking at it, that doesn't account for everything. Dig deeper. Look at the math. Make it make sense. Measure. So that's where I'm at with that, man. I don't think we're there yet, but that's where the conversation needs to go. We need to make sure that those PEDs are safe and not coming from places that have these dudes messing up their lives going forward. If you're afraid to take a vaccine, you certainly should not be taking no PEDs. But that's besides the point. The point is if you are in a position to have the right scientists, the right measurers, so to speak, then the culture just needs to catch up to what it is that you understand. That's all it is. That's literally it. And the conversation will sway and change as we start to evolve in our thinking. But until we evolve, let's keep on looking at all the PEDs and say, he's the worst guy in the world. Just all that stupid stuff that doesn't really add up to nothing. Reality is science is helping us. It's evolving, and we need to go along and embrace science as it evolves so that we can be better for it. And don't take too much. Simple as that. Don't take too much. Because chances are if you take too much of anything, it's going to be bad for you anyway. You don't take too much of anything else, so don't take too much of this. Measure, friends. So that's where I'm at with the LeBron James PED conversation. I don't think he's the only person that would have otherwise been in a space where that might have been the case because of the overall need for everybody to basically do something to keep themselves healthy in a world where injuries are all over the place. And believe me, some of them dudes who ain't taking PEDs now, they're going to be taking them next year because of the injury issues that they had this year and how frustrated they probably are about it and how much money they're probably going to leave on the table not being healthy. You want a guy, and I'm not going to name any names because it's just not necessary putting somebody's name on that, but you want a guy whose contract is expiring right now. He's out for 4 weeks because he got an ankle. He's not going to be able to prove he can make that money. He's going to go into next season on some Dennis Schroeder stuff. Let's see if I can get on the team. Let's see if I can play for a year. Hopefully they give me enough minutes. If not, we're going to do it again next year. That's like, man, how many years does a guy have for that? He ain't got time for that. You trying to tell me I could take a shot in this angle and be back on the floor in a couple weeks so I can play for my contract? So I can have security in this league? I'm going to take that shot. Then I'm not going to say nothing about that shot. And if you figure out about it, we'll deal with the consequences. But I'm going to make sure I secure this contract because this ankle injury ain't going to allow me to finish the season properly, and they ain't going to want to pay me next season, but they are going to want me to run around, though. And I can roll this ankle or get a knee even worse next year, so let me just go ahead and do what I need to do to make this ankle straight, get back out there, prove I can get this money, sign this contract, and maybe I can be on some Lonzo Ball stuff, and no matter what happens, I'm paid, baby. See what I'm saying? So it's like, y'all want athletes not to look at these things, but then y'all want them to go out there and do the impossible. And then in a lot of situations, you don't even give them what they're supposed to get for what it is that they've done. Start another guy in the All-Star game over him. You know what I'm saying? Have guys starting on the team over him. Guys taking their minutes when other guys get traded to the team. Some of them ain't even better than you. Stuff like that. Coaches making trash decisions with your time. And you got to deal with that on top of your rolled ankle and your contract situation. It's like, bro, I'm going to take my PED. I'm going to score 30 points on this coach so he can see that I'm balling. And then I'm going to get the hell off this team, sign another contract with somebody else, and live the rest of my comfortable career. And all it took was a shot in my ankle to help me be better for about a game or two. Better just enough to stay upright in the game, basically. So, nah, I'm not doing that. We're going to evolve here, man. We ain't going to just simply be stupid here and just blanket everything as you're condemned, you did better, it's the worst thing. No, we're not. No, we're not doing that. We're smarter than that. We're going to measure what people are standing when they start. We're going to look at what the field's doing. We're going to look at what they're being asked to do. And if all of that is too much, then there needs to be something to balance that out. And that would probably be some type of supplement to help them be more healthy. And if that makes them a cheater, then you're not measuring properly. Where did they start versus the guy that you're measuring them against? Are they as healthy as him? Are they being asked to do as much as him, etc.? That's what we're looking at. So that's that, man. That is the end of that particular part of my conversation. That's what I want to say, man. That's it. Now it's time for me to do homework on the Pelicans, come back to you guys and talk real basketball. But this us wearing colors, opposite crap that never changes back to regular, I feel like I'm in a twilight zone, and I really want us to get our jerseys, at least wear yellow half the time at home. At least half the time, bro. Can I see yellow at crypto? That's all I'm asking. BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.